Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, the June Philadelphia Phillies have finally arrived, but are they here to stay? And what do the Phillies need to do to take advantage of a winnable series against the Detroit Tigers? And we'll also have your responses to a question I asked over the weekend about the overview on the Phillies season right now. All of that on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Locked On Phillies is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you're rating and reviewing if you're consuming this on podcast form. If you're on YouTube and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. And if you haven't checked out the YouTube yet, go ahead and give us a look. You can see how bad my hair looks today. That's why I'm wearing a hat, but even a little bit sticking out in front. Looks horrible. So, go ahead and check that out if you want to make fun of my appearance and stuff like that. And you'll also see a shirt that I'm wearing, a Phillies Hawaiian shirt that we're going to talk more about later in the episode because there's something going on with that. I'll tell you about that later on. But let's jump into today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. So go ahead and check out our friends at BetterHelp. Now, the Philadelphia Phillies took care of business this weekend against the Washington Nationals down in Washington. They lost Friday night. They lost that game, and then they won 4-2 on Saturday. They won 11-3 yesterday. The Saturday game was kind of like a tight one. It didn't feel all that good of a win, but it was a win, and it stopped a 5-game losing streak for the Philadelphia Phillies. JT Realmuto hit a home run. It was the big swing in that game. And Josh Harrison had an RBI single. I mean, the Phils were up 2-0. And then Washington came back and tied it. And then the pitching settled in. Matt Strom only went 2 innings. So the bullpen was great in game 2 of this series. Besides Dylan Covey, who gave up 4 hits and 2 earned runs. He was the only pitcher to allow runs. I have no idea how he was on the roster at all and why he got an opportunity to pitch. But Phillies overcame it anyway. And JT Realmuto had a nice day, 2 for 4 with 2 runs, RBI on a home run. Just great work by him. So that was a nice win. But the big breakthrough was yesterday. So yesterday, the Philadelphia Phillies, yesterday was Sunday, by the way, they took on the Nationals with Ranger Suarez on the mound. Now, Suarez had a really nice start. Very encouraging. He went 7 innings. He gave up 8 hits, but only 1 earned run, 1 walk, 3 Ks. He hasn't really had strikeout stuff this year, and he's not really a strikeout pitcher to the level that Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler are. But that's the only thing that's still kind of concerning that I feel like he's trying to work in. He's trying to figure out that out pitch. Pitching more to contact right now, but 7 innings of 1 earned run ball is perfect. That's all you need. Connor Brogdon gave up 2 earned runs later on in the 9th inning, but not super important just because he gave up a home run there. Bottom line, this game was out of hand early because Ranger Suarez gave you a good, comfortable start where you didn't get into too much trouble, and the Philadelphia Phillies got going. So top of the second, JT Realmuto hit a home run to center. Second home run in as many games. It's great work by JT. He might be getting hot. That'd be great to see. Then the Phillies gave one back in the bottom of the 4th on a sacrifice fly. Then Drew Ellis hit a home run to left field. He snuck it around the foul pole, and everyone's like, oh, my goodness, Drew Ellis can actually hit a home run. I just said I can't believe this guy's on the roster. And all of a sudden, he's hitting home runs for the Phillies in tie ball games. So top of the 5th, he hits a home run. Then top of the 6th, Kyle Schwarber hits a 3-run home run to break it open, 5-1. Bomb the right center, 391 feet. Great. Drew Ellis scored on that one as well. He was on base there. Then Brandon Marsh in the top of the 7th hits a sacrifice fly to left, makes it 6-1 with Bryson Stott scoring. Then Drew Ellis homers again in the 7th. His second home run of the day, 389 feet on this one, a 2-run home run, 8-1. My goodness, you definitely didn't have Drew Ellis hitting 1 home run, much less hitting 2 home runs. If you had given me the over-under for the season on Drew Ellis home runs at 1.5 for the Phillies, I would have taken the under. But here we are. 2 home runs in yesterday's game against the Nationals. Kyle Schwarber, not to be outdone, comes up in the top of the 9th, hits his second home run of the day, another 3-run home run. He finishes with 6 RBIs on the day. Outstanding day for Kyle Schwarber. He's coming out of it. And Tom McCarthy had a great call on the second home run Kyle Schwarber hit. He hits the home run. He's like, it's going back. And normally the call from an announcer would be, and this one is gone. But instead, McCarthy goes, and it is June. Because, of course, we know Kyle Schwarber is the greatest June baseball player in the history of baseball. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it is what it is. That's kind of just how he works. And that's something the Philadelphia Phillies understand about him, and how the fan base needs to understand about how he works. For whatever reason, he's cold for the first couple months, and then June he gets hot. So an 11-3 win against the Nationals. The Phillies take 2 of 3 down in Washington. They're no longer in last place in the NL East. Currently, as far as the standings are concerned, it still doesn't look pretty for the Phillies. They're 27-32. But they're only 2.5 games back from the New York Mets, who are in third place at 500 right there. A very good opportunity for the Philadelphia Phillies now, too, taking on the Detroit Tigers coming up tonight. So the Phillies didn't make a lot of ground in the standings, but they got off of the losing streak with 2 wins down there in Washington. They won a series. They have some momentum, and hopefully this is a time where they can get hot with the Tigers coming into town tonight. 6:40 p.m. first pitch at home against the Detroit Tigers. The Phillies are back at Citizens Bank Park. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast on the Sirius XM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you can hear them take on the Tigers tonight, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's good. We're going to talk about that one coming up in just a little bit. Just wrapping up the series in Washington, though. I mean, the big thing, Zach Wheeler, he's not in trouble, but he had a bad start in Game 1. If he doesn't have a bad start in Game 1, if he's typical Zach Wheeler, the Phillies would have swept Washington. They scored 7 runs. Wheeler was getting hit around the yard. And I don't think Wheeler's got any long-term questions for the season. I'm not saying, oh, wow, Wheeler can't compete against the Nationals. He just had a bad start. It was just a really bad time to have a bad start. He's been good. And then when the team needed a really good start out of him the most, he had a stinker, which happens. But I bring that up to say, in Game 2 against the Washington Nationals, the bullpen was really good, even though it was a bullpen game. You held Washington to 2 runs. And then in Game 3, you held the Nationals to 3 runs, 2 of those coming on a home run in the 9th inning when the game was already out of hand. Ranger Suarez was outstanding. The pitching's starting to figure it out a little bit. You're getting a little bit more consistency in starts. I mean, look at these numbers. 3 runs allowed to the Nationals, 2 runs allowed to the Nationals. And you have the 8-run game, okay, of course. But even in that Mets series, 4 runs allowed to the Mets. 4 runs allowed to the Mets, 2 runs allowed to the Mets. Those are way lower than when you were looking at a Brave series where you're giving up 11 and 8, a Diamondback series where you're giving up 6 and 5. 4 and under is where you want to be for the run total given up, and the Philadelphia Phillies have been there. Besides the one game against the Nationals, looking at the Mets and the National Series, they've been there consistently. So the pitching's getting better. So that's a good thing. Hopefully that will continue against the Detroit Tigers with Aaron Nola on the mound tonight. So we'll go ahead and see. And coming up, we're going to jump into that series and talk a little bit, preview tonight's matchup with the Detroit Tigers. A couple returns from some Philadelphia Phillies from last year that would be fun to talk about. Some fun stuff with a Tiger series coming up, and we'll discuss more as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about a championship team, right? For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, go ahead and head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game. When you shop on eBay Motors, it's super important to have that confidence, and they give it to you. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you're going to be back in the game in no time. It's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. And that's what you get with eBay Motors. So get the right parts, the right fit, and also important, the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. All right, like I told you earlier, the Phillies take on the Detroit Tigers tonight, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast on the Sirius XM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to go ahead and hear everything there. So go ahead and consume it that way. Looking at this matchup, the Phillies have a 69.8% chance to win. Nice. Tonight's game. As opposed to 30.2% for the Detroit Tigers. One of the big reasons why is the pitching matchup. The Phillies have Aaron Nola going, and I know I know, Aaron Nola. The last time he pitched, I had a breakdown on here and said I'm done trusting him at all. I'm not going in with expectations for Aaron Nola. But the guy that you're facing is Joey Wentz, who's 1-5 this year for the Tigers and a 7.28 ERA, a whip of 1.68. I mean, this guy's just not been a good pitcher this year. Aaron Nola has been better than that. I mean, he's still got a 4.70 ERA. He's 4-4, 1.13 whip. I mean, like, it's frustrating how inconsistent he is, but it doesn't make him not a good pitcher. So that's a good sign. And the Phillies have some opportunities in this series. I mean, just looking at the pitching matchups, you got Wentz versus Nola. Then you have Taijuan Walker against undecided for the Detroit Tigers in game 2. They're trying to figure out what they want to do there. And then you have Zach Wheeler against Reese Olson, who numbers don't look bad, but I mean, he's only got like a couple of innings pitched. He's got 5 innings pitched in his career at the major league level. So, yeah, not a big sample size there. Super big advantage for the Phillies in this series. I'd be disappointed with them if they didn't sweep. And it starts tonight. Take care of business tonight. Looking at the lineup here, just running down it. The lineup for Detroit looks as follows. McKinstry batting 278 leading off. Baez batting 223. How far Javi Baez has fallen. Baddoo batting 250 with 3 home runs in the 3-hole. Spencer Torkelson is batting cleanup. He's batting 234 with 5 home runs. Nick Maton, 5 home runs, second most in this lineup, but he's batting 162. He's batting less than Kyle Schwarber is right now. Haas catching, batting 224. Miguel Cabrera still playing somehow for this team, DHing. He's batting 202. Ibanez, 183 in the 8-hole, and Marisnik, 200. Their highest batting average is McKinstry batting 278 in the leadoff spot. Besides that, they have nobody else in this lineup batting over 250. This should be a dominant day for Zach Wheeler. Career versus Aaron Nola. Only 3 guys have ever seen him. McKinstry's 0-3 against him. Javi Baez, of course, been around for a while. He was 3-15 against Nola, 200 average, but 2 of those 3 hits are home runs. And Miguel Cabrera is 1-8 against him, 2 strikeouts, 125. So none of these guys have really seen all that much of Aaron Nola besides, of course, Nick Maton and Matt Vierling, who come back and they will get their NL championship rings tonight. They will be presented with those, considering that they were on the team last year and then got traded to Detroit as part of that Gregory Soto deal. They'll get rings tonight. So that'll be emotional. It'll be good to see Nick Maton and Matt Vierling back in the building. So that's a good deal. The Phillies lineup tonight. Career against Wentz. None of them have ever seen him. But here's how the Phillies will line up. Schwarber's going to lead off again. Castellanos in the 2-hole. Harper in the 3-hole. Turner's going to back cleanup. JT Realmuto 5th. Bryson Stott 6th. Drew Ellis gets another start at first base. He's going to bat 7th. Edmundo Sosa's over there at third base. He's going to bat 8th. Dalton Guthrie in center field. He's going to bat 9th. So no Marsh tonight with the lefty Wentz on the mound. He'll be available to hit off the bench. But, so that's what you're looking at. I mean, the numbers, the batting leaders for these teams, it's just super striking to see how much better the Phillies are offensively, pitching-wise, everything than the Detroit Tigers. The record doesn't show you a huge difference. The Tigers are 26-31. The Phillies are 27-32. But you look at these numbers. The leader for home runs for the Phillies, Kyle Schwarber with 15. The leader for the Detroit Tigers, Jake Rogers, who has 6. So Kyle Schwarber almost has 3 times as many home runs as their top guy. Top average guy for qualified for them is they've got Riley Green is batting 296. Nick Castellanos is up to 316 after being hot down in Washington. RBIs, Alec Bohm has 37. Javi Baez has 27. 10 more RBIs, 20 more points in average. Is that 20 more points in average? Yeah, 20 more points in average and 9 home runs better in the leaders categories. I mean, it's just the Phillies have the significantly better situation when it comes to the offense. And the Detroit Tigers, Eduardo Rodriguez has actually been really good on the mound for them. Phillies get a chance to avoid him. They don't see him in the series. So really good opportunity there. I mean, just looking at what the Tigers have done recently, looking at the teams they've recently played, they just went and got swept by the White Sox, who are not good. Like, you can't get swept by the White Sox. They actually took one from the Rangers, but lost 2 or 3 to the Rangers. I mean, they lost 1 of 3 to the Royals, which is insane. They almost got swept by the Nationals before that. The Tigers just aren't that good of a team. And they have been, have they been on a bit of a road trip? No, they've been home. So you get a chance to give them the first little bit of a road trip. Maybe they're not. Or they went to Chicago first, so they played 3 games on the road in Chicago. Not that far of a trip for them. But coming all the way over here to Philadelphia, Tough. Let me go ahead and just look at where they're at in their division. The Detroit Tigers, when you look at where they match up, they're actually in third place in the AL Central, but the AL Central's garbage. The Twins are in first place by 3.5 games, and they're only 2 games over 500. That division also has the Kansas City Royals, who are 18-41, the White Sox, who are 26-35, the Guardians, who are 27-32. I mean, the Twins are probably going to walk into the playoffs in that division. They're not even going to have to be that good. So the Tigers' record is probably inflated even by being in that bad of a division and having played some of those teams so far. So, yes, super advantage to the Philadelphia Phillies. And this is a series. I said it about Washington, right? Where it's just like, I don't just want the Phillies to win. I want them to have games where they run it up. And I got my wish Sunday. Against the Tigers, I don't want just like wins. Like, I do want them to win, obviously, but I want dominant wins. I want you to go out and look at a team that you say they're not as good as us, and just beat the daylights out of them. All due respect to the Tigers, not that good of an organization, not that good of a team, not playing well right now. You're not seeing any of their top pitchers. You're seeing guys that should not be competitive against the pitchers you're trotting out there. Go out there and handle your business. This is a very, very pivotal series for the Philadelphia Phillies because you have 2 opportunities. You have an opportunity to go out and take 2 of 3 or 3 of 3 against the Detroit Tigers, keep momentum, keep getting closer to 500 and say, okay, Sunday wasn't a fluke against Washington. Or you can go out and you can totally undo all of the excitement, all the, Kyle Schwarber hit 2 home runs, June Schwarber's back, the June Phillies are here, they're going to score like 10 runs a game for the entire month and get back into the mix in the NL East. That all goes out the window if you lose 2 of 3 to the Tigers. So go ahead and take care of business. It's as simple as that. And I believe the Philadelphia Phillies are capable of doing it. I'm not making any predictions because this team is impossible to predict, but they've got a good opportunity against Detroit tonight. And just hoping you get Aaron Nola tonight, because if he's bad, anyone in baseball can beat him. He implodes as much as anybody. So a lot to still watch for and a lot to listen for. Games at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's first pitch. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast on the Sirius XM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. You'll be able to pull up everything there. So go ahead and check that all out from our friends over on the SXM app and Sirius XM radio. Coming up, we did a little bit of something different off the poll. I did an open-end response. Because, on Friday's episode, I asked about, is the Philadelphia Phillies season over? And then I heard some stuff when I did my weekend show on Saturday on the radio about people being out on this team. So I put it out to a tweet. I'm going to read some of the responses coming up and go through them just in general of what I was able to see from the responses to that tweet and the feel of the fan base. So we'll discuss that coming up as we wrap up today's Locked On Phillies. All right, first, though, I want to tell you about BetterHelp, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about mentality and your day-to-day and how important mental health is to you, like physical health. I'll tell you right now, the back of my throat is bothering me a little bit. It's a little scratchy. I can't tell if it's allergies. I can't tell if I'm getting a little sick. I don't know what it is, but it's been driving me insane all day, right? And that's physical ailment, like physical illness. You have these immediate feelings of pain, soreness, this, that, and the other thing. Mental health, it's not as easy to know exactly what you need to do for it or exactly where you might be hurting. And that's why you need experts. I mean, you go to a doctor if you don't know why you're not feeling great. Well, BetterHelp is a great way to handle this for your mental health. Okay. It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you. And you never take a moment to think about what you may need from yourself. But when we spend all of our time giving, it can leave us feeling stretched thin and burned out. Therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Absolutely awesome. You can find more balance with BetterHelp. So visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. All right. Let's talk a little bit about, so normally off the poll, what I do is I'll put out a poll question. I'll get responses. There'll be a bunch of votes on stuff like that. And I told you and off the poll on Friday, I was going to ask if the Philadelphia Phillies season feels over, like their playoff contention feels over. And then Saturday morning, I go and I do my morning show over on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio. And had a lot of pushback from people about a certain topic that I did in a tweet that I sent out. So here's a tweet. Very simple. Are you still watching the Phillies or are you out on this team? Had a bunch of people call in, just running through some of the responses. I mean, most people, I would say most responders said that they were still watching, but there were a bunch of different takes from this. A lot of people saying they're still watching. Scott Steller says, I say I'm out, but then I go back and still watch them. Am I crazy? Just a Phillies fan, I guess. And I feel like that's a lot of people, right? So some of these people who say I'm out in this tweet thread and the responses probably end up watching some more games than they'd care to admit. Michael Clayton, or not that Michael Clayton. Michael Clayton responds and says, maybe I'm reaching, but Phillies have played 9 more road games than home games this season, the most in baseball. Remember, this is Saturday morning. So this is prior to the Saturday and Sunday Washington games. So they hadn't seen the 11-run performance yet. But they're 11 games under 500 on the road and are historically bad on the road. If they take care of business at home, they should still be in the hunt. Fair point. Jason Snyder says, sadly out. Roster improves from last year, and somehow we go from playing championship level ball to unwatchable. Now, remember, they weren't playing championship level ball at this time last year, but I understand. It's totally annoying to see the team upgrade the roster and downgrade the level of play, so I get that. Jonathan Vafiadis says, always watching our Phillies, but it's frustrating. We know they're better than this. This is the life of a Philly sports fan. I got it. DLP3 says they got to go 65-40 just to get to 90 wins. I don't think it matters if we are out. They are out. It's a fair point. Can this team play 15 game over 500 ball to get to 90 wins? It's going to be tough. They've dug themselves a bit of a hole, but I think they're capable of being that good. I mean, the roster is certainly good enough. The Phillies won. Great handle says, still watch, but I'm not altering my day around them. If I can't watch, then oh well. I get it. It hasn't become a priority. I mean, it's super tough. People are asking, can we still say if it's early in the season? Most of us aren't bandwagon fans, so yes, still watching. I mean, the fan base is in absolute shambles at points. Now, hopefully, they're in a better spot because of the game on Sunday and the 11-3 win, and Kyle Schwarber hitting 2 home runs and Drew Ellis hitting 2 home runs. But there are a lot of people. I'm going through a strain right now. Out, sleeping emoji, out, like a whole bunch of stuff. So there's some people who are done with this team already. There are some people who are still watching because they believe this team can get better. There's some rational, some irrational that say, I mean, I just love Philly sports. So a lot of different responses there, but it gives you a general idea of where the fan base is at. Super conflicted right now. Last thing before we get out of here, though, about the shirt. I've decided that I'm going to take some of this into my own hands. A lot of people think that sports are up to the athletes and the managers and the people on the floor and everything like that, or on the grass or on the court, whatever you want to call it. Baseball, obviously, it's a diamond. But I don't totally believe that. I think we have effect over sports, and I think sometimes the mojo needs to be changed. This is stupid. I'm going to regret this. It's going to ruin my life for the next couple of months, but I'm doing it because I need the Philadelphia Phillies to be good at baseball. So this shirt, I got it a Father's Day giveaway at a Phillies game like 5-6 years ago. It's a great shirt. Awesome Phillies Hawaiian shirt. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If not, it's a great Phillies Hawaiian shirt. Go subscribe to the YouTube so you can see it. I wore it yesterday to go watch the game, and the Philadelphia Phillies absolutely pummeled the Washington Nationals. So I made the promise that I'm going to wear this shirt every day the Philadelphia Phillies win. Now, I'll wear it for the podcast. I'll be wearing it on the radio. I won't be wearing it to like the gym and stuff like that. But if the Philadelphia Phillies win, the next day I'm going to be wearing the shirt on the podcast for the entirety of the year, the rest of the year, playoffs, everything. I'm going to be wearing this shirt. I'll be wearing this shirt hopefully through October. But yes, so I'm going to super regret that. The shirt's going to get really stinky, but I got to do what I got to do to keep momentum going. And if the shirt worked yesterday, we're going to keep wearing the shirt. I reserve my right to retire the shirt if the Phillies continue just like get smoked over and over and over again. The season's over. But yes, the shirt is here to save the Phillies season, the magical Phillies Hawaiian shirt. So keep an eye on that, and hopefully you'll be seeing me wear that a lot. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. I got to go do laundry. Not just this shirt, but everything in general. But thank you so much for tuning in. Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Appreciate you taking the time. Make sure you're rating, reviewing. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube, what are you waiting for? Jump on, hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.